First two ends were very clean and very straightforward and nothing exciting at all. The third end became an exciting play with lots of rocks in play. Ted Brown making a great shot with his last stone to count a single point. So of course, the scoring of a single point by Ted Brown on the third gives last rock advantage to Russ Howard.
Well, that was certainly a big shot that Teddy made in the third end. You certainly can't afford to give up 3 to world champion Howard. The game would have been over, I'm sure, if that hadn't happened. That also gives Teddy's team a big lift to see their skip come through with a big shot like that.
So Wayne Appleton lead for Ted Brown, the first stone of this fourth end. He's deep in the house behind the tee line. Russ is actually motioning to his lead, Kent Carstairs, to play down to the Brown stone behind the tee in the back 8. He also motioned to Kent that he was considering as a possibility the corner guard, the short stone. What are the pros and cons on that one?
Well, of course, when you throw up the corner guard instead of freezing to it, you're really getting aggressive. I think as the end goes along, we'll see that when you throw that corner guard up early, more times than not, it'll come into play and afford you a chance to pick up your deuce. By Bliss playing the straight freeze to the back rock, Ted can see it. It gives him the chance to split it out or freeze up to it at the same time. So it's not quite as aggressive as playing that corner guard.
A demonstration once again of the steady curling ability of Kent Carstairs as he throws an almost perfect freeze, and there you see the score superimposed on the screen, 1-0 for Ted Brown after blanking the first two ends. Forced to take a single point on the third, but he was very happy to have it, because if he hadn't got his single, Russ Howard was away with a steal of 3. So Wayne Appleton, the lead on the Kingston team. His second rock on the first end, a takeout attempt on the Howard counter. He removes it and the backing, rolls over fully in the 12-foot.
Yeah, I'm sure Russ is happy to see that stone over in the wings. Whenever you have last stone, you'd rather be playing off the center line. Get away from the button. If things go awry, well then there isn't too many stones in play in that area. Looks like they have good line on this stone. Sweepers are working it. Another great shot.
It's almost frustrating to watch these guys play these shots and make them look routine. It's like the golfers on television. You watch them play. It seems so deceptively simple. You watch these people play and it's ho-hum. Well, just another freeze to the face of an enemy stone. Gerald Chick, second man on the Kingston ring. He wants to remove the Howard counter. Again, a successful completion of that shot. Removed. The Howard stone, he lost the backing, of course, but it would have been impossible to make the shot without losing the backing. So we're back to a situation where the Cataraqui Curling Club team lying 1. Russ Howard with last rock in this fourth end. Not calling the takeout. Instead, the offensive shot in the circumstances, a draw. once again, right to the face of that stone, an almost perfect shot.
Yeah, we can see the angle that that ended up at. Oftentimes in club play especially, you may be satisfied with a shot like that, but instead of being in that position, it may be to the outside of the yellow stone, namely to the into the 12-foot area. And by putting it over there, it allows the defensive side, in this case Ted Brown without last stone, to make contact and roll into the center of the rings. With the rock in this position, Ted cannot afford to roll into the center. If he makes contact, he has to roll to the outside, which allows Russ again to possibly freeze to him out in the wings instead of in the center area of the ice.
Gerald Chick, in turn takeout attempt.
Well, this is the break that Russ is looking for. He now has a stone in play. He can tap that yellow one out and lie two.
The reason for playing down to the backing. Makes the removal that much more difficult. Gerald Chick did not hit that stone at the right place and remove it cleanly.
Russ may get very aggressive here, Taryn, meaning that he may freeze to the front of that yellow one, and this really forces Ted's hand. If he can put the perfect freeze on there, Ted may eventually be looking at three.
So they're just keeping it clean. Playing down to Brown's counter. Didn't come across quite as much as they had hoped. It's not in front of.
Well, this is a delicate shot for Al, but if he hits this just right, just slightly off center, he may be able to have a two-stone advantage.
Well, of course, that's the downside risk. You play the offensive draw shot to the face of the rock. It's a more difficult shot, and if you don't make it perfectly, set up a situation that can favor the opponent. The simpler shot to play and the one with less risk was the takeout. Third man Al Smith. They could be lying two after this shot. Got Howard Stone. The shooter rolls out of play. Almost got a double takeout.
Yeah, I think Al threw just a little more weight than what Teddy was expecting in that stone, and as we can see, it stayed on the high side. Some discussion on Russ's part as to whether they should remove the yellow stone or just draw to it. I think they've opted for freezing up to it again. And we can see by the ice that Russ is giving that they'll be playing a draw up to the face of the yellow stone. Like they may have a great shot. Pretty close to what Russ was hoping for. Maybe just a foot heavy. Once again, we see the replay of this. Good shot of the sweepers. At this point, they have control of it. They know the line is good. Just watch it come in and make contact with the yellow stone.
So once again, Ted Brown faced with a takeout of a Howard counter, which is in front of one of his own stones.
Ted may be trying to play the double on this blue one. Nice pick by Al.
So he picks it out cleanly, but the shooter rolls out of play, so we're back to the situation again. Howard has a second stone in the rings. You can see it on the right at the back. And Brown is shot. Here we see it again. They're sweeping it hard because they want to pick it cleanly without touching their back rock. They feathered it slightly on the way by. Effectively, the shot as called, Kingston line 1.
Looks like Russ may have decided here, Terry, to possibly move that yellow stone out of the rings. I would think he'd like to flop over into the 12-foot and maintain good spacing between the shooter and the other counter that he has in the back 12. Little change in strategy at this point.
Well, they haven't been successful in getting so firmly welded to the backing that the Kingston team hasn't been able to remove it. And the fact that the credit goes to the Kingston players. Howard's team is throwing those rocks to the face of the Kingston stone each time, and they've been able to remove it in every case. They tap the Kingston rock just to the edge of the circle, and it appears to be out. The shooter rolls to the back 12-foot, and it's sitting beside the other Howard stone.
Yeah, I think maybe Glenn was just a little too warm with this shot. This has allowed Ted to gain the advantage on the end. We can see here it rolls over. This is going to afford Ted the chance to make a double takeout, and now Russ Howard has lost his advantage. We can see from that how delicate the weight is on this ice.
So probably Glenn Howard just was a little bit heavier than he needed to be to make that shot. If he'd have played it a little bit lighter, a little bit less weight, it could have curled just a little bit more. One thing about curling is it's not only a fun game to play, but it draws in quite incredible audience television reaction. It is the most watched sport on CBC Sports Weekend, apart from the Grey Cup, which of course goes on both networks and therefore is able to garner a larger audience. Incredible interest in curling, and I know now that we're certainly being viewed by appreciative spectators that are watching this game here at the Nepean Sportsplex. I'm sure they'd love to be here. Because of the snowstorm, they've elected to stay at home and listen to our cogent comments, and we've just had a call and mentioned to me how much they like it. So we'll say hello to the people that took the time to call and say thank you for enjoying this coverage, which we should give credit to Algonquin College and their students in their communications program and television, who are providing all of the technical facilities and the technical crew here. You and I just need to sit and watch a game that we love. They're providing all of the picture and sound and facilities to the two Ottawa cable companies, Ottawa Cablevision and Skyline Cablevision.
You see that patented move by Russ. He always sits in the hack there and spins the rock around just before he throws.
So this is Russ Howard's first stone of the fourth end. He trails by 1. The score is 1-0 in favor of Ted Brown. Here is the offensive shot, playing the attempted freeze to the Kingston counter at the back 12-foot. They want to get it there, so he's encouraging his sweepers, but he doesn't have quite enough weight to get there. It stops at the tee line.
This is the danger, Terry, when you play aggressively as Russ so often plays. He didn't quite get the freeze on this, so this allows Ted to remove this counter, lie 2. Russ will be forced to take 1 and lose the advantage of, or the chance or the opportunity of picking up a deuce. It shows the confidence, though, that Russ plays with. He was confident that he could make that freeze in the back 12 and afford him an opportunity maybe of picking up a deuce. A lot of curlers would have just split that off, blanked the end, and gone on to the next. But Russ felt there was an opportunity to play the freeze. Maybe Teddy wouldn't be able to remove it. Russ would then draw for 2. This is a delicate little shot for Ted at the same time. Must be careful not to bang it back on that back one.
Sweepers are on it. Misses the back one clean. He rolls over, bumps into his own, which was just outside the circles. So Ted Brown lying 2 as Russ Howard goes down to deliver the last rock of this 4th end.
Once again, we see the fine shot that Ted just played.
Played it perfectly, picking the rock cleanly, did not put it onto the backing, and of course rolled across the house and made use of one of his own stones. Shooter bumped up against it and stayed in the ring, so Brown lying 2. Howard with his last rock draw attempt. And he's definitely thinks he's light. There's no question when Russ wants his rock swept as to what he'd like.
Yeah, they're going to have to work this one.
The decibel level of his voice is inversely proportional to how well he thinks the rock is doing. There it is, back 4-foot weight. Russ Howard scores a single point to tie the game at 4-4. At 1-1 after 4 ends. We're going to take an opportunity here as the teams commence play in the 5th end to go to the other sheets and take a look at what's happening in the other 7th round games here at the Nepean Sportsplex. On sheet 1, we've got a key match for Dave Van Dyne. He's tied for 2nd spot going into the 7th round, tied with Ted Brown with 4 wins and 2 losses. In this 7th round, matched against Paul Savage of Toronto Avonlea. Paul Savage currently enjoying a 2-1 lead over Dave Van Dyne after 3 ends of play. After 4 ends of play as well. They're in the 5th end. Savage ahead 2-1. On sheet 2, the other Ottawa rink. Rick Bichand of the Rideau Curling Club, a record of 3-3 going in. He's tied 1-1 with Wayne Midoff from Brampton. On sheet 4, Brian DeRoy from Chatham, a 2-1 lead over Ron Rowley from Chinguacousy. And on sheet 5, a 2-2 tie between Wayne Meller from Allenford and Oshawa's Brian Suttard.
Teddy Brown with last stone advantage will be trying to keep the front of the house clear. Russ Howard, on the other hand, will be attempting to get that center line guard, hoping that the Brown foursome may get a nose hit or a miss. So again, without last stone, Russ Howard is on somewhat of a defensive style of play.
So both ends in which points have been scored, Alden, the opposite team has had to take the point.
Well, I think the viewers can see how precise these players play. In the last end, we saw where Russ didn't quite make his last stone. He didn't get it up close to the one in the back of the house. This afforded Ted the opportunity to remove it. He took advantage of that. Not only did he remove it, but he rolled across the house. This forced Russ to take 1 stone, or 1 point. So that's the penalty you pay if you don't make the shot exactly the way you want it to.
Ted Brown with last rock here in the 5th. Wayne Appleton being asked for the clear shot of that rock which is short of the rings, and he's got a complete miss. So this could turn out to be an interesting end. A miss on the lead stone. Russ Howard attempting to set up the front stone. He's now got it. The call is to play down just past it to the top of the rings or bury behind it.
Well, we can see from this the importance of front end on a team. Oftentimes the front end is considered to be the poorer curlers, but that's certainly not the case. Each man has a job to do. In this particular case, Wayne Appleton had a miss, and this allows Russ Howard to possibly draw around this and get something going and maybe steal the end.
All three players brushing Tim Belcourt's stone. They want it to be up into the top of the 12-foot circle. It's there. Possibly would have liked it to be a little bit deeper, a little better hidden behind the guard.
And as we saw early on in the game, Terry, that center line is very treacherous, and oftentimes it's a case of just being an inch here or there, which would make the difference of making the perfect shot or just a half shot.
Gerald Chick with a takeout attempt on the Howard counter. Rex on the guard. Shooter rolls out of play. Russ Howard looking down the sheet, signaling to his players to see what they think would be the preferred call in this circumstances.
I think, as we've seen during the course of the game, that the ice runs so straight there that possibly the bump up would be the better shot. Russ must feel that by going off the center line a little more, that he may catch a little more of the bend and enable him to get in behind that front guard.
Still discussion taking place with respect to what the team believes to be the most appropriate shot in the circumstances. Tim Belcourt was in the hack ready to throw and started talking to Kent Carstairs and Glenn Howard. Some indecision as to exactly what the best call is or what was wanted, so there's no question that they've got to be in 100% agreement of what they're attempting to do at this point. So a quick break while Russ and Glenn meet down near the other end of the sheet. That discussion complete. Glenn is returning to position near the hack. Now they've got it straightened out.
It would appear they may be playing the long guard instead of coming into the house. This, of course, when you don't have last stone, you want to control that center line, which may afford him the chance later on in the end to draw around and steal the end. Ted, on the other hand, wanting to keep that center open. This may force his hand, whether or not he wants to gamble, come around that center one, or remove those front stones.
So there see the setup as it would appear to the player in the hack getting ready to play his stone. In this case, Gerald Chick, second for Ted Brown. 3 stones in play, all of them belonging to Russ Howard. 2 short of the rings, one of them partially protected and at the top of the house fighting the 12-foot circle. Ted Brown going after that counter.
Teddy will attempt to remove this and possibly roll in behind that corner guard.
The option, of course, was to play it tight, make sure you don't miss both, and if it happens to bend too much, at least you remove the guard, and that's what happened. Gerald Chick Stone bent too much. Removed the guard, the shooter rolled over, bumped into the second Howard Stone, which was in front of the rings, and pushed it out of play.
That may have been a blessing in disguise, Terry, with not only did he remove that stone off the center line, which of course is a dangerous situation for Ted, but the shooter rolled across, as you mentioned, and now it's become a corner guard, which later on in the end, maybe Ted will have the chance to get in behind that and allow him the opportunity to get the deuce. When you have last stone, you don't like to see those guards out on that center line guarding the button. Russ, on the other hand, as we've mentioned, he'll be attempting to replace that stone on the center line.
So here it comes, and obviously they're going to be successful with this stone. There it is, halfway between the hog line and the house on the center line.
Teddy having a long look at this one. Probably debating whether to remove that long guard or take a chance and try to remove the one in the front 12.
Ted concerned about that center line guard, of course. It'd be a problem for him if he leaves it there.
Well, it's not only the one in the out of the rings, Terry. It's also that one in the front 12. This creates a situation where Russ